Hey everyone, Marley Silverbrand here. It's been quite a bit since I posted twice in the month of August here on this feed. But this episode you're about to listen to, we recorded back in April and it is just now coming out. I'm recording this on September 1st. We're in the Burr months, so that means officially or unofficially, the Real Lovers podcast is in Spooky Month. Although I do have a series coming up that I haven't quite announced here on this feed yet, but you're about to hear it later this week. I think you're going to really enjoy it. And it's a new little mini series that I'm doing here on the lobby, along with the Letterboxd Top 250 series. And I will be getting back into recording regular episodes for the 250. Look forward to Everything Everywhere All at Once. I'm going to be recording that this week. That should be out Friday if everything goes perfectly smooth. So far, 2024, things haven't been going perfectly smooth here with the Real Lovers podcast, but we keep on chugging along. I will announce, probably after this episode is released, I will announce our plans for the next mini-series here on the Real Lovers podcast, The Lobby. Like I said, you're going to really enjoy it. But this episode that you're about to hear, I had the pleasure of talking with Neebs, Watch with Neebs, as he goes by on all social media platforms. And we talked about Monkey Man, and probably one of my favorite movies of the year so far. So this is actually kind of a perfect episode for people to listen to just because it's available right now to stream on Peacock. Everyone should go watch this movie because it really is one of the better revenge movies of the year so far. Dev Patel's directorial debut, he really did a fantastic job and really blew me away. And it's a really great conversation I had with Watch with Neebs, and really wish I had this review out when the movie actually released, but at least you can actually watch the film still. You can watch it right now on Peacock, and I believe it's available to buy on Blu-ray. I think. I don't think a Blu-ray is out just yet, but hopefully a Blu-ray will be out by the end of the year. But yeah, anyways, expect at least 2 episodes this week. I know that's a lot for me to be promising for you guys. 2 episodes this week. We're announcing the mini-series they're going to be doing here on the lobby, and then the Everything Everywhere All at Once Letterboxd Top 250 show, which is a very special episode just because the guest I'll have for that is a real special guest. And I'm very excited to talk Everything Overall once with them. But without further ado, I'm going to stop yapping and I hope you enjoy this review for Monkey Man, the directorial debut for Dev Patel. Anyways, I'll talk to you later. I'll see you on the other side. Peace.
Close your eyes, and you will find yourself.
When I was a boy, my mother used to tell me a story of a demon king and his army. They brought fire and terror to the land until they faced the protector of the people, the white monkey.
There you are. You are a beast.
Hello and welcome back to The Lobby, a podcast that lives here on the Real Lovers podcast feed. I know it's been a while since we've actually recorded like an episode, but I had to make an episode for the movie that we're going to be talking about today. And joining me to talk about Monkey Man, directorial debut, is a really good friend and also just a really awesome podcaster. He hosts the Salam Nerds podcast, and you can follow him on TikTok and Instagram with the username Watch with Neebs. It's Neebs. Neebs,
Hey.
Welcome to the lobby. How's it going today?
Thank you so much for having me, man. I've been trying to get on here for a while. We were trying to get on here for a few other shows, and our timing couldn't work out. So I'm really excited to be on this podcast. I know you've been on mine a few times, and we love having you, especially in the comments and stuff like that. So it's super fun, man. I'm happy to be doing this.
Yeah, we've been trying to get you on like the Letterboxd Top 250 series that we've been doing. I think you signed up for The Dark Knight coming
Oh
up.
yeah, I love that movie. I know it doesn't get. I think like in time it become overrated, so people lose how much like respect they had for it.
Mhm.
But to me, I think it still holds up, man. It's like one of the best written comic book movies. The dialogue, I have a natural act of quoting that movie for any situation that's happening in real life. Like if something's happening, I can find a Dark Knight quote to relate to it.
It's been a while since I've rewatched that film, but I
Yeah,
remember being in the theater. Like I saw it like 70 millimeter IMAX,
yeah.
and I was completely blown away. Like when the Joker goons start ziplining in. But yeah, like Christopher Nolan, just a master class in filmmaking. But we're not here to talk about The Dark Knight today. We're talking about Dev Patel's directorial debut, Monkey Man, which is out in theaters. You can see it in theaters right now. So
Yeah.
if you haven't seen Monkey Man, everyone listening, hit pause on the podcast, go watch Monkey Man, come back, and we're gonna be talking about Monkey Man pretty much in depth. So Neebs, let's get into it. I saw on Instagram that you actually you saw a pre-screening for this, right? You were invited to the premiere. You want to just talk about that experience because you've gone
Yeah.
to a few premieres already, right?
Yeah, it's fun. I got asked to come to the premiere, and I really liked it. We took pictures. I saw Dev Patel. I met him. I got to take a video of him. Brown Girl magazine was the one that invited me out to the screening, and it was really cool. They did a little performance. They did some classical Indian dance in the beginning, and you get to learn that why that Indian dance that they do in the beginning of the screening was so
Mhm,
important to the plot, because there's a scene where the guy has these drums and he's doing his rhythmic tones, and it's
mhm.
the dancing based on those drums. So it's really cool that they got like a local Indian dance team to come in and perform. And then right after I went there, I got asked to put together a commercial for their production team and promo team. So I put together a really nice like reel for Monkey Man, which was cool because I took like Dev Patel's audio about like growing up and how he experienced all the challenges in life, and put it on the backdrop of all the cool scenes from the premieres and all the cool pictures from the premieres. And Monkey Man used it, and it was really cool. So I got to do a little work for them. It was exciting.
That's awesome. Like that you got to go see the premiere, but also help them out along with it
Yeah.
as well, and got to meet Dev Patel. Like I had the pleasure. I didn't meet Dev Patel, but whenever his name comes up in any conversation, I always have to, because his film, The Road Within. Have you seen that film?
No, I don't think
Uh,
I have.
it's basically Dev Patel he plays someone with OCD of like
Mm.
mental disorder, and part of that film was shot in my hometown. And
Oh,
I
very
walked
cool.
past Dev Patel, and I just want to say that he smells really nice.
You know what?
So,
That's so weird. So many other people have said that. Is that a
mhm.
thing? Is that like a Dev Patel meme or something? Because so
I
many people have said that.
Yeah, and then also Shiv,
Yeah.
chivalry. She on TikTok, she interviewed him, and they both Dev said that she smells really nice too. So it's like this whole back and forth and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
Smelling nice is underrated. People don't know. Like when you smell nice, it's a thing, man. You're
it's a
like, whoops.
it's a huge compliment. It's a huge
Yeah.
compliment because it's just wow, I worked so hard, like
Yeah.
getting ready, and people actually appreciate it.
Yeah.
But yeah, but enough about Dev Patel smelling nice. What were your kind of overall thoughts of Monkey Man? Like going into, did you know about this film like initially,
Yeah.
or?
So I've known about this movie for a while, but I don't
Mhm,
think the promotions do it justice. They just make it seem like it's a Indian John Wick, which this I think is nothing like an Indian John Wick. There's definitely some homages to it and some reference to it. They have homages to several action flicks, but I think it uniquely holds its own. These revenge thrillers are very popular in India. They've been doing them for ages,
mhm,
and even here in America, people think that John Wick was the first one. It really wasn't. Like Tekken came before that with Liam Nielsen. You
mhm,
have the original movies like Death Wish with Charles Bronson. Like those go way back to the 80s. Even
mhm.
the westerns were like these revenge flicks. So like this medium has been around for a long time. I think just the fact that he's wearing a suit and kicking butt makes people think that, oh, it's a John Wick, when there's very little gunplay in
Mhm.
this movie at all. It's mostly martial arts, and the martial arts is mostly karate. So I really was blown away by this movie because I had different expectations of it. I thought it was gonna be something else, but the story was rich in culture, rich in nuance, rich in telling you what the character is going through. And then we got all the action that we wanted, but the action didn't come until 45 minutes into the movie, which is very different from the John Wick movies where you have like the intro action scene and then the middle action scene and then the climax action scene. So it's very different than what I was expecting, but I was blown away. Like, I was really happy that they had a powerful enough plot and story to match the action.
Yeah, I totally agree with you with everything that you said there. I will say that I watched like the trailer going into it. I think the trailer was released like in February, like a month before like the movie actually came out. And when that trailer was released, I was like, I saw Dev Patel's directorial debut, and just it's a really great trailer. The trailer is really well edited, and I was going into this movie kind of expecting like the same pace and like tone. And you get like that, you get that pace, but I feel like the trailer kind of doesn't really live up to what the movie actually is. Not saying that the movie is bad. It's just it was hard to like for me to like live up to everything based on that trailer. But this is a fantastic directorial debut. Yeah, there's still those little quirks that you see in like a debut, but I feel like that kind of adds to the flavor of this movie because Dev Patel, the one thing I do like about what Dev Patel has been doing during the promos for this and basically him talking about like his experiences after the movie's been released is that he talks about this movie just being hell to work on. He's basically shot during COVID and they were trapped on like this island in Indonesia and they just couldn't leave. The camera was breaking. He broke his hand. And you really feel like just all of that struggle like in this film, and it adds to the character that Dev Patel is playing, Kid. And I don't know. I just think, and also I know you said that a lot of people are comparing it to an Indian John Wick, but I feel like that's like it's a little bit slap in the face a little bit to compare it to John Wick, just because there's so many, like you said, there's so many like Indian films that like have done the John Wick before John Wick actually did it. But I love this film. This film is like absolutely wild, and it feels like it's right up my alley too.
Yeah. Not only did he go through all of these issues and problems with the movie, but it got shelved. After all that work, Netflix was like, nah, we're not going to release it. We're just going to shelve it. And then he showed it to Jordan Peele, and Jordan Peele talked to Universal and got Universal to buy it for $10 million. And the movie made back all the money in the first weekend. That's insane. So what a win for Dev Patel, Jordan Peele, and Universal.
Yeah, it's a huge win just because I don't think, even if Netflix did release like this film, I don't think it would hit like the same way.
No.
I don't think I would have seen it twice in theaters.
Yeah.
Because I would just played it on like on my TV at home and be like, oh, that was cool. But like this needed to be like, God bless Jordan Peele for doing whatever he did, pulled the strings that he could pull to get like this film like on the big screen, just because like he's taking chances on films like this. And I want them to work together like more.
Me too.
Yeah, I think it's a really great partnership like coming up. Like I don't think that Dev would co-direct with Jordan Peele, just because I think Jordan Peele is at that moment where I don't think anyone's co-directing with him. Not that it's like it's just
but come on, as a producer, like Christopher Nolan helped produce Zack Snyder's Man of Steel, right? You still see a little bit of Christopher his little Nolan-ness in those movies, right? But it's strictly a Zack Snyder movie.
Yeah, but one thing you noticed that one thing that you said that like this film doesn't really have any gunplay, and I feel like that kind of adds to the brutality as well. Just because it's and it adds to like Kid's character as well, because like the film like introduces him as like a guy that's just struggling to make a living, like he's working like multiple jobs, and he's fed up with the system that's been like trying to think of the word that was given to him, and he wants to rise up against. And like in my Letterboxd review, I compared it a little bit to How to Blow Up a Pipeline from last year. Have you seen that film?
No, but I've heard other people make that same comparison.
Just because I feel like what How to Blow Up a Pipeline was trying to do, Monkey Man does like better, just because you feel for the character of Kid a little bit more, and just because of what happens to his mother in this film, which,
Right.
in my personal opinion, if I were to cut anything from this movie, I feel like Dev went a little bit too hard on like the death of his mother, like in this
Hmm.
movie, just because I think it was like right around the second or third act that's when he shows like his mother being brutally murdered, and I'm like,
Right.
I don't need to see that. It's I know what happened to his mother was tragic, but
Hmm.
I felt like he could have laid up a little bit. But what do you think about that?
I agree with you
Mhm,
about him spending a lot of time on his mother, but not so much
mhm,
in the scene where his mom like dies. I feel like that was needed
mhm,
to get you emotionally invested. It's all the flashback scenes that you were seeing over and over again. And I was like, I think they did it one too many times or something like that
mhm,
because it kept taking me out of the story a little bit. But I think it was needed. And like the way they showed it, they don't show anything graphic, which is very common in Indian films. Like they don't show you stuff what's happening, right? So they
mhm.
have you like cutaways and they have the looks on his eyes as it's happening, as she's burning. So it's a very classic like Indian cinema when they do this. Though I didn't mind that as much, but I do think they kept showing it over and over again in the back. Yes, we know why he's doing this. We know he's doing it while he's fighting the captain at the very end. We still see like in the middle of his fight the flashbacks, and I felt like
Mhm.
that took me out a little bit. And I was like,
Yeah,
I just want to see the fight. I don't need a flashback. It's jarring to go back and forth. So
yeah.
this is why I was like, okay, I agree with you, but on a different scene, not exactly that scene.
Yeah, it started to get, like you said, it started to get a lot really jarring. Where it's just, I almost wanted to just tell Dev, like personally, it's like, hey, I get it. I get what you're trying to do here. You don't have to show me like every single time, but just like completely tragic scene as well. Just and it really did me feel for like the character and wanted him to just get revenge on these people that are just. It's I don't know. It's very tragic. But kind of moving on to a little bit of like his, because one of the things that I appreciated most about like his revenge is the first part of his revenge,
Hmm.
where he's just building up. It's basically like all rage at this point, and I love that he's like failing upward in a way.
Hmm.
And then like when he's trying to get away, it's like he's a rookie. He's never done this before,
Yeah.
and I like kind of that raw like mentality that his character had, and
Yeah.
then it's revealed like when we meet like the transgender warriors,
The Hijra.
which
Yeah.
what's their name, or
Hijra.
Hija?
Hijra. Hijra. Hijra.
Okay, but I feel like that's where the movie it took a turn that I didn't really expect, but it was a very positive turn, just because Dev learned to fight with love
Mm.
and fight with instead of like using like masculine energy, fight with the feminine energy, and that's what
Mhm.
kind of made him prevail. And I love like that turn for that arc for his character. I love it.
Yeah, I love how they introduced the rhythm and the drums to his fighting because all of his
Hmm.
fighting was all rage, but now it's more like a river, right? That's how your
Hmm.
fighting is. And he stated that Bruce Lee is one of his what he was thinking about when he was making this,
Hmm.
and that's like how Bruce Lee fight. He's fight like the river, go with the flow, right? So I think that was really interesting the way they did that. I want to talk about the Hijra community a little bit. People don't really know that, but like the Hijra community in India and Pakistan is officially a third gender. We've had that for ages.
Hmm.
Pre-colonization, they were they're very oppressed for sure, but there was also like a little bit of respect that went with them because they would live in these mosque or mandars, whether they were Hindu or they were Muslim, and people would think that they have a special tie to God because they are oppressed and God listens to the voices of the oppressed. So
Hmm.
in our culture, a lot of time, if something bad is happening or you're trying to paying for a job or you're trying to have a kid, people would go out and give money to the Hijra community and ask them to pray for them. So it's like one of the things where they're very common, they're very normalized, and you see them everywhere. Where I haven't seen a trans person in America that often, but I've seen Hijras in Pakistan just normally walking the streets. And don't get me wrong, they're still very much oppressed. And a lot
Hmm.
of their oppression comes from post colonization, but they're very normalized. You just see them all the time.
I love Dev's like inclusion of that community as well, just because. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is that I've heard. I heard a rumor that's the reason why Netflix dropped like this film like initially, just because of like that community is very oppressed, and there's a lot of like ongoing issues like in India. Just I felt like Netflix in a way it was them being
You're
cowards
you're
in a
you're you're
way.
you're you're half right. I looked this up. So the reason
Mhm,
that Netflix dropped this was political, but not because of the Hijra community, but because how the main villain is shown as weaponizing religion
mhm,
in order to oppress people. And it's
mhm,
very similar to what's happening in India now. There is a Hindu nationalist movement happening at the moment. Modi is like their Trump, right? For lack of a better
mhm,
comparison. He's like their Trump and he gets them all riled up. And there has been like oppression with like Sikh farmers and Muslims, and they have actually shown scenes in the movie from actual Modi protests in the
mhm.
movie. So because of that, Netflix dropped it, and it's probably not getting a release in India. It's probably not going to get a release because the main villain is basically a watered down version or a villainized version, a more villainized version of Modi, right? Whatever, depending
Mhm.
on how you take that. So that's probably why Netflix dropped it. I know that's why it's not being approved in India unless they
Mhm.
make some severe changes to it.
Yeah, and they already made like changes to some of the groups. I forget like they because Dev actually used like the colors.
Yeah, the
Uh, uh,
saffron color is like a
mhm,
political party color, and
mhm,
they changed it to red so it doesn't go with that political party.
But I don't think just changing the colors is probably enough to get it released in India. Just because although I do admire Dev to still bring up these topics, even though he probably is gonna get a lot of because I feel like that's the responsibility of a director
Right.
is even though like these issues that he's bringing up are like hot button like issues. Dev wasn't afraid to talk about them
Yeah.
and that's just like I said that's just like the important part of a director. You're adding to the story. To take it away probably would have diminished the story in a way, so
Yeah. And this like theme of like religious leaders spiritually abusing people and weaponized religion is not exclusive to Hindus. It's it happens
mhm,
in Christianity, it happens in Islam, it happens everywhere, right? So this is like it's a
mhm,
universal theme. Also, they actually don't say that this place is like Mumbai. They actually call it a fictional city in India.
mhm,
So it's not a real city. And they probably did that for one, because of, changing the censors and getting around to it.
mhm.
And two, because they were actually filming in Indonesia and they needed to explain why not everyone in this country or the city looks Indian, right? Which
Yeah,
isn't far fetched because there are like people in India that look that have Chinese features, people in like Nepal and stuff like that. So
yeah.
it isn't out of the realm, but it's like a thing that I noticed.
Yeah, one thing I also noticed, I was having another conversation with someone after I saw it like the first time, and there was one criticism. I'm not sure if you had this criticism as well. Is that the way this film is shot? There's a lot of at least this is what I got from it as well. Is that this film is shot in a very Slumdog type of way,
Mm-hmm.
and it made me think because Dev Patel was in Slumdog Millionaire,
Oh,
and
yeah.
maybe he was inspired by like those alleyway shots. But I was
Mm-hmm.
talking to someone else, and they said, and they've been to like India, and they're like, that there's India doesn't look like this. So it's just like a reminder. Like Dev is going back to his culture, but he is
Yeah.
British. So it's a British person commenting on it, like being Indian when they
Yeah.
like yeah he's been to India, but it's just there's that kind of like side thing where. But I think it adds to like the tightness of this movie and just and like being claustrophobic. But what are your like thoughts on that about?
Yeah. I think I get what he's trying to do, and I see why people think it's problematic because
Mhm,
like they have look, I'm sure there are places like that in India,
mhm,
just like there are places like that in Pakistan. There are places
mhm.
like that in almost any area of those areas. But there is this, I don't know, like romanticized version of the slums that we always like package for the West. And
Mhm,
I feel like that can be very problematic. And especially since just a few like weeks ago, a video went viral where a woman visited India and she took a tour of the slums. Who does that? That is so bizarre. But like these movies like Slumdog Millionaire and probably this one makes people who are not of that culture go, "Oh, I want to go and see the slums," as if that's something that you should do. That's weird. That's
yeah.
bizarre. So I understand the critique. That critique makes perfect sense to me. I
Eh,
wouldn't say they don't exist, but I think that it is a
mhm.
problematic way to show India over and over again.
Yeah, but I think what Monkey Man does is it doesn't necessarily romanticize it as much as Slumdog Millionaire does.
Mhm.
I feel like Dev really he like locked into making like this film as brutal and like I said, very claustrophobic as possible, and just showed like the oppressed in a very unique, and it made people open their eyes to like these communities and the people like being and the people being oppressed. But I think he did a pretty decent job, even though he's not fully Indian. But
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And the thing is, it's hard to tell a story about the underprivileged and the marginalized without actually showing them be underprivileged and marginalized, right? If we shot it here, we would shoot it in Detroit or Camden or some of these areas, right? Like
Mhm.
so some random town in Alabama. Like you would find these places that they would shoot it in. Every country has these areas. So if you're going to show somebody who's underprivileged, you're not going to show them in Greenwich, Connecticut, right? You're going to show
Right.
them in a place that suits that storyline.
And I feel like that's a challenge for filmmakers and storytellers like alike,
Yeah.
is to find a way to show the oppressed and like underprivileged in different ways that don't necessarily romanticize like these areas. But and I feel like as a filmmaker, and you're a filmmaker as well, I feel like that's a interesting and challenge to actually have to start
Yeah.
telling like these stories. And I feel like Dev is getting there, like with Monkey Man, just
Mhm.
because everything that I just said about like how he like pictures the oppressed like in this movie. But let's get into a little bit of the performances in this movie as well.
Sure.
The first person that besides Dev, because I feel like Dev is doing a lot here, obviously directing and acting, and just I just can't even imagine like having to direct and act
Yeah.
like in a movie like all together. Like acting is hard enough and directing is
Yeah.
hard enough, but and also getting like all these performances out of these really great Indian actors, and also the person that I thought was just hamming it up and just knew exactly where he was is Shanto Copley,
Mm.
basically doing his own Vince McMahon like
Yeah.
impression
Yeah.
in this movie.
Yeah.
With like he's basically the ringleader like at the start of this movie, where Kid has like the Monkey Man mask on, and I don't know, I just love everything about what he's doing here. It's just it adds to the flavor of everything that's going on. But
Yeah. It explained also that, hey, this city is very diverse. So even though it's in
Mhm.
India, it's very diverse. It had people of all religions and of all cultures here because it's like a New York City of this Indian city. So
Mhm.
I get that. It was very interesting to see that storytelling wise also. But we also got this little bits of like flair in there. And I love the wrestling scenes too. I thought they were really good. Very much Batman Begins, where like Batman can fight, but he wasn't focused, right? He had to go through training through Ra's al Ghul to become actually Batman. And the
Mhm.
same thing in this movie, like Dev could fight. He was a born fighter. He's been fighting all his life, but until he was able to focus and be trained, he wasn't able to take on an entire army, right? Which is
Right.
really cool.
Yeah, and it's totally different like fighting professionally, like he quote unquote professionally like in that setting, but different fighting style from that to taking down like this like overlord.
Yeah.
Like it's like a different level of rage and different level of just like energy that he's putting in.
Mhm.
But one thing that I just talking about this movie with other people is that like the amount of like Indian and South Asian like actors that he had in this movie, that
Yeah.
I will admit that like my like Indian cinema is pretty lacking. I'm trying in 2024 to watch more like Indian cinema, but from the people that I'm talking about, like the people that he got that Dev got for this movie, they're not used to doing like movies like this, like action
No.
cinema. And I'm trying to think of like who's the like the crime boss or whatever. The person
Rana, no, the crime boss,
it
the
was
police officer, or the actual religious leader, or
the
the woman.
the woman.
Oh,
The,
Queenie Kapoor.
supposedly she does like rom-coms or something like that.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
am I correct on that? Like she's doing
Yeah, they're more like romantic movies, but almost like all Bollywood movies have a romantic element to them.
Mhm.
But and
Yeah.
I think a lot of the actors from this are actually not from like Bollywood. They're
Mhm.
from what you call it, Tollywood, which is a Tamil and South Indian form of Hollywood in
Mhm.
India. So it's like a different part of India cinema.
Mhm. I just like especially when directors don't they see when someone's getting typecast and they're like, I can see you doing more stuff like this. And
Yeah.
I just like that actor's like presence, especially in that scene where Dev is like asking for a job,
Yeah.
and just the way she's looking at him and tells him no. It's just it's a very intense scene. I think it's one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie, just because Dev is like literally begging on hands and knees because he needs a
Yeah.
job to live. And personally, I related most in that scene just because I started off like the first few months of 2024 like without a job, and I was looking for a job. So I felt for Dev
Yeah.
Patel's character so much, just because job hunting in 2024 is real. So,
For sure.
but
For sure.
yeah, but I don't know. I like that actor so much. I think she really knocked out of the park for sure.
Yeah. What I really liked about her story was that Dev never killed her. It was
Mhm.
the other woman who was the prostitute, Sita. She ended up killing her. So in a way, like she overcame her own oppressor instead
Mhm.
of Dev doing it for her, which I thought was a really cool way to end that story angle.
Yeah, and it shows like where Kid actually like what Kid actually thought of women like in his
Mhm.
life and how he treated them, just because I don't want to. What was that group that kind of helped him train or whatever? The Hijra, like he used them to help succeed, like in the
Yeah.
end. And then just like his mom also was a huge influence on him as well, and just like
Mhm.
how his mom, even though she died, she influenced him in other ways, and just like
Right.
from I just like it's just I just like the way Kid used like feminine like energy to just like defeat the bad guys like in this movie, where
Mhm.
you can't just this is why I feel like this film isn't John Wick, just because John
Right.
Wick uses complete masculine energy to just
Mhm.
take down everyone in his path, but but Kid needs masculine energy and also feminine energy to take down like these terrible regimes. But
Right.
I think that's where I was tearing up in this movie, just because I love like people just unlocking both sides
Yeah.
of like their culture and just who they are. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
No, I really like that too. And then you also see the symbolism in the temple with the god, where they show like
mhm,
the god in the statue is half man, half white, sorry, half man, half woman, and it shows that he needed definitely like both of those energies.
yeah, for sure. But I do want to talk about, you brought it up a little bit, Neebs, like earlier in the show, where you talked about like the drums and how
Yeah.
that influenced like his fighting. I loved like that the guy that actually did the drums, like, he was not an actor.
No,
And like
he's a
he's like
professional. He's a professional drummer. Like he's very popular in India. He's known.
yeah, and I just love that Dev just used it, like he could have gotten anyone, but he
Yeah.
was just like, no, I'm just gonna get the best drummer in India to
Yeah.
be in this movie. And he doesn't have a single any lines, but the way, this is why I feel like Dev, like he should be commended for like the direction, just because he's directing non-actors and also acting like in the scene, and just that's such a great kind of like that scene specifically is such like a great kind of like Rocky moment for
Mhm.
Kid. And Dev has talked about this like multiple times and how he loves Rocky. And that's like another thing. I knew Dev was like into like action movies, and also like many Indians as well are into like action movies as well, because
Mhm.
Bollywood and Tollywood is just so many like references to so many action films.
Mhm.
But I didn't know Dev was like this, because there's so many references to like literally everything. Like you said,
Yeah.
John Wick, and
There's Kill
also
Bill. There's so many.
Fast and Furious with the what's that small car?
Oh, the rickshaw. The rickshaw
Yeah,
with
the
with the
rickshaw.
NOS. I forgot about that. You're right.
The rickshaw with the nos. This is why I had to see it two times, because I was like, did 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 Dev Patel really just put a Fast and
NOS
the
in a
Furious?
rickshaw. Yeah. That was so
It's
funny.
such a good scene, just because I love when they activate like the nos,
Yeah.
like the camera pans out and like a wide angle of the rickshaw going down, and it's like
Yeah.
super quiet and stuff like that. But so apparently, one of my like other friends said that Dev really souped up like that rickshaw because they don't look
Yeah.
that nice. But
Oh, yeah. I'm sure they know.
yeah, but I just love that scene so much. Yeah,
That was funny. Yeah. Yeah. I remember that. That was hilarious. I totally
yeah,
forgot about that.
yeah. I don't know. It's just whenever I see something with Nos or drifting,
Yeah.
I was just like, I immediately make that connection. But yeah, monkey. But do we have anything else to talk about like with this movie, or anything else you want to mention?
No, I think we talked about mostly everything that I wanted to talk about the movie because I feel like it's definitely a movie that's probably not going to get talked about enough, which is sad. But I really enjoyed it. I think it's one of those like surprise action film of this of the season. You're gonna really love it. Highly recommend people watch it. There's not like a lot of like subtitles, so like most of it is in English, so you'll be able to understand it fine. And all of the Indian references are pretty much okay. There's nothing that you really need to know in terms of like
Hmm.
culture and language. So anyone can go watch it. They'll enjoy it. But I don't know. I think it was a good time. I was really glad to see this. I hope this opens the door for more Indians in action films.
Hmm.
It's not a lot of us. It's always some kind of comedic relief, or they're starting to come up in rom-coms, but it's mostly just IT guy, tech guy, terrorist. That's all there is. So I'm hoping we see more in the action genre.
Yeah, I totally agree, and it's funny you mentioned that just because it supposedly this is a rumor, but Dev Patel is like in talks to be in the new Jurassic World movie directed by Gareth Evans.
Oh
So
wow.
so that's a start, just
Yeah,
in
that'd be
talks.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I but I totally agree that I totally agree with you that hopefully like this movie opens up so many doors for Indians and South Asians to just be like in any franchise they want, like any
Yeah.
genre that they want. But
No, I agree with his train of thought too. If there's no room for you at the table,
mhm,
build your own table.
mhm,
And I believe in that. Like when I was trying to get into TikTok and I was trying to get into podcasting, nobody was talking about like these shows with South Asian artists and actors. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to build my own podcast and I'm going to talk about it. And that's what I did. So I love that train of thought, man. I love that way of thinking. And that's how I apply my little career on the internet.
yeah, it's I totally respect that and commend that as well. One other thing that kind of like echoes that as well. Do you remember the Cord Jefferson speech at the Oscars?
I don't.
It was when he won Best Original Screenplay. He basically talked about Hollywood needs to take more risks on I think it was $25 million films,
Hmm.
of like at five $200 million films, just
Yeah.
because. And I totally agree with that as well, just because like you said, Monkey Man was made for right around $10 million
Yeah.
to what a movie that also came out like a week later, Civil War, which was like 50 million to $100 million. Like just it, you don't need to like have like big budgets like that to
Yeah.
like a great film like Monkey Man. Take risks on the smaller budget movies for Hollywood. That's what I have to say about that. But
For sure.
I love Monkey Man. I'm definitely going to see it probably one more time before it leaves theaters. It's it because I think it probably won't hit the same like at home. But I'm really glad that I saw it twice in theaters. Really great needle drops as well. We didn't
Yeah.
really the needle drops that Dev Patel puts in there. I just like that it's such a great, just dramatic like action film that like where the dramatic moments actually hit and you actually feel for these characters that are on screen. But
The part, yeah, I was gonna say the part that really made me like when he says that part of this film was actually filmed on a phone. I kept looking for it, and I was like, I wonder what part was actually filmed on the phone, and it all looked great. So I don't
mhm,
know what phone they used, but that phone, they should sponsor that movie because
right,
that's incredible.
yeah, I think I don't know. I was looking where he on my second viewing. I was looking what phone footage it was, but
Yeah,
I don't know. I couldn't really tell either. Maybe it was like in one of the alley shots or something like that. Or but I don't know. I just love that Dev made this film. It's out now, and you can actually watch it. It's not like a Batgirl or anything like that written
yeah,
off for
yeah,
tax purposes. It's a weird world that we're living in where stuff like that can happen.
yeah,
But at least we can actually watch Monkey Man, and hopefully we'll get a Blu-ray release. Like
yeah.
which it is universal. Hopefully, I think that we'll probably get a steelbook in some way. But everyone should go watch Monkey Man. It's in theaters now. Neebs, thanks for having this talk with me. I've been very excited to talk with you about this movie. But where could people find you online if they want to talk more about movies and TV with you online.
Sure. You can find me everywhere with Watch with Neebs. Neebs is spelled Neebz, just like it is on the screen. And if you want to listen to my podcast, check out my podcast, Salam Nerds. We recap all TV shows, movies, even reality TV. So we'll do Indian matchmaking and The Bachelor and Love is Blind. In fact, coming this fall, I may be on a reality TV show too. So I might be recapping my own show. So we'll see.
Yeah. NDA, you probably can't reveal like what.
It's going to be on Hulu. It's a dating show on Hulu. That's all I could say. And it'll come out in the fall.
Okay. Everyone to check out that undisclosed or unnamed dating show on Hulu. That's super exciting. I will have to say, I use your show specifically to get caught up on reality TV. So if people want to get caught up on reality TV, Salam Nerds that's your podcast to listen to.
Yeah, sure. We tell people we watch these shows so you don't have to. It's a public service.
Yes. Love is Blind, I would watch it maybe. But Neebs, thanks. Thank you so much. If people like this podcast, you can follow us at the Real Livers Podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. That's Pocket Casts, Apple Podcasts, pretty much anywhere. Just search us up, the Real Livers Podcast, and drop us a review. If you drop us, hold on, I'm gonna restart that. So I'm gonna pause. All right. If you made it to the end of this podcast and you like what you heard, you can also listen to more of these episodes anywhere you listen to podcasts on Pocket Casts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere where you listen to podcasts. The Real Livers Podcast is there. We're also on Threads, Instagram, and TikTok with the username at Real Livers Pod. You can also subscribe to our Patreon for only $1 to help us out, and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. And also, you can follow me, Marley Loves Film, pretty much everywhere on social media, TikTok, Threads, Instagram. Follow me there at Marley Loves Film, and let's talk film together. But with that being said, Neebs, let's get back to the movies.
All right. See you guys.
See ya.